Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Mason. I'm the Director of Special Projects with the Arizona International Film Festival. And a hearty hello and congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a wonderful Zoom session lined up for you. Something that you're going to walk away, you stay with us, you're going to walk away with some very, very valuable and interesting information. We're not pulling any punches. This has been kind of softball up to this point. Now we're going to play hardball. And we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of production here in Tucson, Arizona. I am so thrilled and delighted to have with us members of the IFA. If you're in production, if you're interested in film, if you have anything to do with media in Tucson, Southern Arizona, you have got to be part of IFA. They are where the action is. And they have partnered with us in a big way this year. We are so delighted to have them. We had a wonderful evening last night where we showed some Arizona shorts. That was largely because of IFA's co-sponsorship. So we're in this together, guys. So I've said my spiel. Those of you out there in Zoom, if you have questions along the way, please go to chat and put them in there. The session is being recorded. It'll be available on Facebook at a later date. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to the president of IFA, Elisa Cota-Francis, and she will take it from there. Elisa.
Thank you so much, John. And I have to say that our new partnership with the Arizona International Film Festival has been so amazing and exciting. We can't wait. And I was talking to Mia last night, and we were talking about how this is just the start of many years together. So we appreciate all you guys have done for Arizona filmmakers for the last 30 years. So thank you guys so much. I am so excited when John came to me and said, hey, Elisa, do you want to host a panel? I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got so many ideas. And one of the biggest things is those of us who film in Arizona, we're a little different here. There's, fun. I mean, us Arizona crew have so many amazing stories, so many amazing feats of extraordinary feats that we've accomplished with very little crew, really crazy, situations. And I think we actually just set a standard for how we're able to take the extremes here in our state and make them work for ourselves and also be prepared. And I think one of those reasons is because so many of us have experience filming here. So I decided, my husband, Bobby, who is also the unofficial board member of IFA, also had some great stories too, and he's been in this business for a long time. So I want to start out by introducing the amazing panelists that we have on this panel, because there is a wealth of information here. So I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves and give just a little, short synopsis of who you are, and then we'll take it away. And of course, how long you've been in this industry, and of course, what position you are. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my vice president of Independent Film Arizona, also an amazing award-winning film maker in her own right, and that is Erin Benzenhoefer. So Erin, I would love for you to give us your little intro.
Well, hi guys. It's really nice to be on here today with everybody on this amazing panel. I'm just so excited. I have had the pleasure of actually working with every single member on this panel on a variety of types of shoots. So I am an independent filmmaker like all of us here, and I like to do producing, especially like to do editing and directing, and sometimes I even assistant direct. So it's crazy times. So I like to wear a lot of different hats. I have had the pleasure of producing a feature as well as several shorts, and I've worked on a lot of features as well as shorts, web series, commercials, infomercials. So I feel really blessed that the gamut of projects that I've gotten to work on has been so extensive. And
that's perfect. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Erin.
No, I was just gonna say, and I am now the vice president of IFA, and I'm very excited to help launch some new programs and stuff to help local filmmakers.
You are fantastic. And she is just, a lot of I would say every panelist on this panel is so humble, and I am the big cheerleader for everybody, because the amount of talent in this room is amazing. And I'm not this is not, I'm being completely truthful. And Erin is one of those people too, that she is just my go-to for everything. And so I love her being on set with her because we always fix it. So the next person I want to introduce, because I feel it should be ladies first, is the amazing Margarita Potts. Margarita has been part of this industry for a very long time. She is not only one of the premier hair and makeup artists here in the state of Arizona, but she is sought after around the world. She has the highest level clients. She has set a standard for this industry that is just remarkable. And the fact that she resides here in Arizona, to me, is such a gift to us, because not only does she work on these amazing high-end projects, but she's also an independent filmmaker in her own right, and really comes in, works with independent filmmakers. She is such a high skill set, but she works on passion projects. She really believes in the industry here, giving back, and she is a very successful business owner. So Margarita, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, because I'm just so excited that you're on this panel.
Wow, thank you so much, because that was quite the intro. I'm flattered. Thank you so much. My name is Margarita Potts. I'm a hair and makeup artist for TV, film, and print, as you guys know. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I kind of start losing count. I know I was stuck at 17 years for a long time, until one of my partners, Rami Reyes, kind of said, no, that's not true. You've been here longer. So I've been doing this for quite some time. I do all of it. I do hair, I do makeup, sometimes effects. I fill in where I have to. And I'll just leave it short and simple with that. Yeah.
Awesome. And the next person I want to introduce is Tomas. And Tomas, I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, and I'm fierce about pronouncing things correctly. So how do we pronounce your last name?
It's Arceo.
Arceo. Tomas Arceo. I had the honor of working with Tomas on a beautiful film that actually won many awards and was premierly showcased at the Arizona International Film Festival. So they are previous winners, and Tomas was the director of photography for an amazing film called Dust One, which I think just about every one of us worked on this panel. Tomas, I would love for you to talk about what you do and who you are. I think you're the people that people may not know as well, but they should know you, because you are an amazing cinematographer. It was such a pleasure to work with you. And you also are an amazing still photographer, which is where you reside from. So please tell us about yourself.
Right. Thank you for that. First off, I am also representing Genevieve Anderson, the writer and director of Dust One, because she's not able to make it on this panel. She'll be right here. And in any event, yeah, I came from the stills world. 30 years of commercial automotive advertising. Filming around the world, usually as a first AC, a lot in stills, some in later in motion and whatnot. And then I came to Arizona, and we did our film in 2018, a year of post-production and whatnot. And then it screened at the Arizona International Film Festival, where we won Best Indie Feature. So, and yeah, very, very pleased about that, and very pleased to see, some faces that we worked with on this film here. So that was been, really fantastic. And Genevieve Anderson came from 20 years as a writer and director of short films, primarily with rod-driven puppets. And so this feature that we produced and shot down here in Arizona is our first feature film. And as you said, yeah, it's been gathering a lot of awards, and right now it's on YouTube, Amazon Prime, Roku. You can all see it there. So.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Tomas, so much for making the time to be here, especially because Genevieve could not. But I don't think you're a replacement for her. You're just as important, and you were just as pivotal in this production. So we're so glad to have you here. And last but not least is my amazing award-winning cinematographer of a husband, Bobby Francis. Bobby is probably the most humble person on this panel, and will always downplay what he can do. He comes from the art background. He's a 3D animator and special effects artist. So when we're on set and people say, can you make me 30 pounds lighter and 20 years younger? I can say, yeah, we can do that. And I've got the guy for you. He is just an amazing asset to Arizona and a jack of all trades. If you want someone on set who can just pitch in and do anything, he's your guy. And he gets along with everybody and just cares so much about the projects he works on, and has the most amazing attitude when it comes to being on set. So I would love for you to introduce yourself to the panel, Bobby.
Hi, again, yeah, I'm Bobby Francis, and this is my amazing wife, Elisa. I just want to say hi to the panel. I'm honored to be, sit here with you guys today. I work with, you guys every day, and you guys in the Tucson crew are just amazing, and we always hear the accolades of crews coming outside of Tucson to work here, and you guys just blow them away. But my background is actually, I went to school for animation and special effects. And what's neat about that is when you're an animator and you're not working for Pixar, you have to do everything. So you learn how to be the cameraman, the lighter, the actor, and all that. So I was fortunate enough to learn a lot of skills, and being an animator is kind of like the perfect inroads to getting into film, because you get to dip your toe in everything. But I've been fortunate enough to work with these amazing people that you see on stage on some fantastic projects that have done shorts and done features. And what's neat about that is that we all have great, creative, and funny stories of how working here in Arizona is most likely very different than working from any other place in the country, because we have such a unique environment here. And yeah, thanks for having me on the panel today. And there's a reason that I'm usually behind the camera, because I don't want to be in front of the camera. I think Margarita can probably agree with me.
Yeah,
Exactly. And and I love that you started off right with the weather and the extremes of working in Arizona. So I actually want to start with Margarita. You're a hair and makeup artist. Here you are in Arizona. There's a lot of issues when it comes to that. So tell us, when you're on set, how it's very different from other parts of the country, and the things that you do to mitigate the extreme weathers, because we get freezing cold weather. We also get very rainy weather, and we also get extremely humid and very hot weather. So tell me, from your perspective as a hair and makeup artist, how do you deal with that when you're on set?
well, I have to say one of the greatest things for me is that I started my career here, basically. I'm from LA originally, but I started my film career here. And that set me up for success, because if you can make it in Tucson, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, you can survive anywhere. Basically, it's a challenge. And every film set that you walk into, I'm, checking the weather, prepping kits for multiple temperatures. We have 30-degree jumps in one day often. Sometimes we're going up to a mountainous area like Mount Lemon. It's snowing up there, and it was just hot down below. So, I have to prepare not only, the hair and makeup kits with cooler bags and different ranges of makeup that can sustain the weather. We buy a lot of specialty makeup. We're doing a lot of sealants, which a lot of people don't know about or use as often. Usually they're using those for underwater scenes. Well, here in Arizona, it's hot and people sweat. So we're actually using underwater sealants for sealing the face for a desert scene, let's say. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. One of the biggest challenges is having, temperature controlled areas. That's always a challenge, having things that aren't going to melt. Sometimes we'll get a trailer, but there's no AC in the trailer. So then it's hotter than it is outside. So, we have all these different challenges with that. And I think the biggest one is when it comes to the rain and the humidity that just shifts so quickly. You can have someone that has straight hair in a scene, but suddenly all these little frizzies are creeping up, and so we have to really stay on set and really watch the weather. I mean, basically that's it. I could think of 500 different scenarios in my head right now, and I could go on tangents for each one, but it is a challenge. If you could do it here, you could do it anywhere.
I love that. That is so, so true. And Thomas, I want to talk to you next because here we are on Dust One. All of us were on Dust One, and Dust One ran into every inclement weather, every scenario that we plan for as an Arizona crew. So tell me from your perspective as the cinematographer, what were the things that you were kind of surprised, because you're somewhat native here to Arizona. So it wasn't like this was your first rodeo. You understand our weather, but what were the things that kind of surprised you in the camera department where you're like, oh, I was not ready for that?
The first surprise was actually when Genevieve said, hey, we're going to film this in monsoon season. And I was like, what? So that was her goal, and that's what we did at the beginning of August. And sure enough, so being prepared, as Margie was talking about, it's in monsoon season for rain, because rain is coming. You're not going to get around it. It's on its way. So being prepared to get undercover, safely undercover as well, and also being able to basically pivot your production schedule. So there was one afternoon that we got doused with a bunch of rain, and so we were sheltering up in the house on the property. Of course, the rain finishes. We go down to set, and it's under 4 or 5 inches of water. So we're like, okay, we can't shoot here. What are we gonna do? We pivot. What is another location that's nearby that we can run with the skeleton crew and go shoot it? And we did that. So because you have to work with some extremes of the weather here, you have to be able to stay on your toes, pivot, and go to where you can actually finish some shooting where you couldn't do it before. That's one of the things that we had to run into for sure. So
that's great. And I think that's one of the things, I think that should be our word of Arizona. We know how to pivot and we know how to think on the spot. So with that, right. I love, you're kind of leading into, I want to turn to Erin Benzenhoefer, who was the assistant director for another award-winning short film, Cactus Boy, directed and written by Chris Frake. An amazing project. I think those of us, I know, those of us that were on Cactus Boy, I think I'm already welling up with tears because that was actually one of the first sets as a sound mixer. I cry, like every single person, the last shot, we all were crying.
I don't cry for anything, but that one was the one. Yeah.
It was magical. You want to talk about why you do what you do. It was magical. And that was also available on Vero to watch. So I will definitely put links to all of these productions so that we can make sure that you guys have a chance to watch these. But Erin, I want to talk to you. Tomas brought up a great, thing about how we pivot. I've seen you do it on the fly. And I know that you and Chris were just side by side with what do we do if the weather has any issues? So tell me about that from your perspective as the assistant director on Cactus Boy.
So first of all, Cactus Boy, the most amazing project that I've ever worked on. I want to ask, did I switch over to the camera? Because my camera is still on, Elisa.
You're good. I see you just fine.
Great.
Everything's fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it was an amazing experience as an assistant director. First off, I have to give kudos to the directing cinematography team. Piero, who is the director of photography, and Chris Frake. They both came from overseas. They were from London, so they came in. And we were shooting in October, which generally isn't associated with a lot of rainstorms. But the few days that we shot, we did encounter inclement weather. And so there was a day, or actually multiple days where it was raining. And so some of the constraints that we had were we had SAG actors on set. So I had to be very cautious of the time that we had them on set so that we didn't go into overtime for them, because that gets it can get very expensive. And the other thing was one of the main actors was a little boy. So he was a minor. And so we also had to be really cautious because we could only have him there for a certain amount of time per day too. So as we're going through the day, and this is where pivoting is really essential, the director has a scene where they're supposed to shoot this scene between the main little boy and the cactus man, who was in this amazing costume. And they were supposed to shoot it in the desert, and they're chasing each other, I believe is what the scene was. And the weather rolled in. And it was a pretty big storm. And And it was one of those things. I go to the director, I'm like, what do you want to do? And it was amazing working with him because he pivoted and they literally were like, well, let's write a new scene and we're going to shoot it inside. And they did that. And the scene in the movie is absolutely beautiful. And then I believe it was our last day of production, they wanted a sunset shot. And also they wanted to shoot in an area with saguaro cactus because of just to make sure that we know where we're at. And we came up with an issue where we realized we can't shoot, I believe, on state land because it's a national forest. And so we pivoted in that day. We reached out to White Stallion Ranch and they were so gracious to us. And they said, yes, you can come and shoot here. So all of a sudden we had a company move to this new location that wasn't planned. And so we all drive there and again, we're shooting against weather coming in and the sun going down and the crew just hustled. I mean, Margarita was there trying to touch up makeup and then we're going into the desert. So we have to leave base camp and we're all just moving farther and farther in the desert. So we're carrying our packs. And one of the biggest things that Elisa taught me was she always carries one of those hair picks that you see, those combs, because when you're shooting in the desert, as cautious as you are to avoid the cacti, inevitably one will get stuck in your shoe. And the best, like people add this to your kit if you're shooting in the desert, a pick because it got the cacti out. And we also had to be very cautious. There was a rattlesnake that was ended up being at base camp. So those are little things that that we had to just work around. And so if you're going to shoot here, just be willing to be flexible with all indie films. But thankfully we didn't have to deal too much with the heat on that particular production, but I was also on Dust One. And so I just want to comment on that one real quick. Majority of Dust One was shot outside. And that was, I believe, like the first day it got up to like 112 degrees. So, it was really important. One of the things that we really realized very quickly, and this is something that I keep in my kit because I don't necessarily expect production to always remember, go to Home Depot, go to somewhere, buy yourself the biggest handheld umbrella that you can, because one, you can use it in the rain, but mostly I keep them in my car for the sun. And when you're out there, I was doing script supervising on Dust One, so I had my chair and I had my umbrella. Don't always expect production to supply those things for you because they don't always think about it. And then another thing that was really helpful for all of us is they make those, it was a piece of fabric. Yeah, it was a cooling cloth. So you wet it and you put it around your neck. So I would just say when shooting in the hot weather, how do you keep your body cool? You don't have to look pretty, but you're going to keep yourself alive and you're going to keep yourself comfortable. Invest in one of those, invest in a few of them, invest in an umbrella, maybe get yourself a chair if you want to sit. You're not really going to sit on set a lot depending on your job, but that's just my experience. I've had some wonderful experiences. Other films, I've also dealt with monsoons coming in and pivot.
That was awesome. And I loved it. And I hardly remembered. I will tell you that working on Cactus Boy, that I vaguely remember, because I was the sound mixer for Cactus Boy, that we had an issue that you guys couldn't shoot. It felt like, to me, I didn't even realize that there was a problem. So you really covered that well. Like, it was just like, okay, we're going to White Stallion Ranch now. And, we've talked to Suzanne and we're good to go. And it was like, oh, I didn't even know that there was an issue with that. So the fact you pivoted so well that I even couldn't distinguish that there was a problem was awesome. So that speaks to the fact that how good you are at what your job, Erin. So
thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. So I want to go to the incomparable Bobby Francis, who I will say one of the biggest strengths of having a Bobby Francis on set is he's all about the crew meetings at the top of the day. Tell us about that, because that is something I think is so pivotal that we do at ArcLight Pictures. We make sure that everybody on the crew knows what's going on with the location that we're at. So tell us about how you do that, Bobby, and how you're that leader in that when you lead your camera department, you not just lead the camera department, but the entire set to say, hey, we want to have a set safety rundown and a set safety meeting with everybody on set, not just heads of department, but everybody. So tell us about those and how important they are here in Arizona.
Well, we all hands down can say Arizona is an extremely beautiful state, but the state is trying to kill you. You know, everything, you know, stings you, pricks you, dries you out. So, so when we have out-of-state crews come here, right, even local crews sometimes, you know, that it might be their first time on set, PA, it's extremely important. The way that we run our sets is that you need to have a safety briefing every morning. Just once a week isn't enough because you have people leaving set and coming on set, and they need to hear it every morning. I could bring up a fantastic story about Cactus Boy, since we're all on that right now, is that we were giving safety briefings every morning, and we had these two fantastic young actors from LA come out. And we were giving our safety briefing. We're talking about the wildlife, the plants, and all of that. But I kind of glance up, and they're both on their phones, you know, laughing and stuff like that. They're not paying attention. And, you know, and I was like, this might end up biting them, you know, because we're giving some really valid information here. So, you know, it was the end of the shoot, and we were out at White Stallion Ranch, and we're filming that gorgeous sunset scene. And we had a hike out there, you know, so we have these kids there. They don't have proper shoes on or, you know, attire, but they ignored the safety briefing, and they basically walked through a nest of cholla. And we know what
you
those
should
are.
explain what cholla are.
Right. Their nickname is the Mexican jumping cactus. You know, they look like these cute little furry teddy bears hung up on a tree, and they're just gorgeous. But the fur isn't fur. They're just little tiny needles. And what happens is if you touch them, they break off in clumps like grapes. And if you have one grape hanging off of you and you try to fling it, it flings and lands on your body. So that's why we always recommend, you know, to watch out for those. Avoid, you know, do a 10-foot pass around one of their little. They always build little communities, you know, so you got to avoid those. And to have a hair pick, like the lady said, and I carry a Gerber, which is kind of like a Leatherman. So that's one of my on-set rules for our camera department, is to always have one of those hanging off you. So yeah, so safety briefings are extremely important. You know, we're filming here, a lot of independent films, you know, shoot on locations that haven't been disrupted in years. So there's a huge chance of an animal encounter. You know, and it's just not rattlesnakes. We have certainly black widows, brown recluse. We were checking out one of the old West towns, and surprisingly enough, a giant javelina that was, you know, sleeping, and we disrupted him, come flying out, and he had an opportunity to attack us, but I think he saw that there was 4 or 5 of us. He decided to run the other way instead. So there's to basically safety briefings are extremely important here, and safety briefings are unique to Arizona. You might find some similar things out in Texas, you know, dealing with water, hydration, sunblock. You know, one day on set for a new film person, you know, and they can get burnt, you know, the first day, and they're going to be suffering for the next 3 or 4 days, you know, and pain and injuries, you know, cost money. It costs people to slow down or take time off of work. So, you know, when you're considering doing filming, you need to really consider, you know, your post-production, and, you know, write all this out into your post-production, because safety saves time and keeps people healthy and happy. So that's why I recommend, you know, doing a mandatory safety briefing every day, and have people that leave set earlier come on, you know, talk to an assistant AD about what they missed, and, you know, what are the safety concerns of that day, because it's not just environment. You know, you might have open fire that day, you know, dealing with gas or vehicles. You know, you always have to have safety, you know, on the top of the mind. And if you don't, you know, you're just looking for trouble. So
Can I add one more thing, Elisa?
Absolutely.
So Bobby, like, a few things came to mind that I think are really key to mention. One is when we're shooting in the desert, we always put on the call sheets the day before, wear closed-toed shoes because of the cacti. That's really important. One thing that you mentioned reminded me, bring some bug spray, especially when the sun is going down. The bugs are going to be out. You're going to get eaten alive. So bug spray, sunscreen is imperative. And then, you know, as an AD, when you're shooting, I'll say specifically, it's more towards the warmer months that I would do this. You may want to consider adding in a little extra time when you're scheduling your setup times and whatnot, because the heat can make you very lethargic. And it's not to say crews aren't moving fast, but sometimes certain things just take longer. You know, you're touching a really hot piece of metal equipment that has been sitting in the sun. You realize some of these lights maybe that have been used, even if you're shooting inside, but you have the HMIs outside creating artificial sunlight. Those may take a little longer in the summer months to cool down to a point where you can move them safely. So that's just a little thing to consider, like in terms of if you're ADing and you're doing the scheduling, like build in a little extra time. Also, like make sure your PAs, when they're on set, are water checking everybody.
Yeah.
And it's so like, you know, obviously maintain set hierarchy, but if you're the person with the water, it's okay, because you don't even necessarily need to ask the person. You just hold out the bottle. If they want it, they'll take it. But it's really important to also be observant of other crew members, because I have been on several shoots where we've been doing exteriors mostly in the summer, and we've thankfully caught some of them right at the point right before they would have maybe gone down for heat exhaustion. So I think also educate yourself on what are the signs of heat exhaustion, so that you can really keep an eye. It goes back to what Bobby was saying too about safety. Those are things that just need to have a little extra precaution taking, because in the summer heat especially, it's so easy to get dehydrated.
Absolutely. And all of these points are so good. So I hope people are taking notes, because I'm even taking notes over here. So, so I want to make sure we leave enough time for questions, but I want to get to one last question that I want to ask everybody, each of you, because this is the fun part that I was kind of thinking this is going to be really funny. So I want to start with Tomas, and I want to ask, what was the craziest, weirdest, most amazing thing you may have seen on a set that you would have never seen anywhere else in the country?
Oh, on a set here in Arizona?
Yes.
Oh, well, I mean, again, I think the most amazing thing is the time span and the quickness at how the weather changes. I mean, you get this burger rain that will come through and it will dump, you know, buckets on you, and then leave 5 minutes later, and 5 minutes after that, you're bone dry again, you know, and there's your double rainbow. Beautiful. So that is part of the thing that really amazes me is that the speed and the extremes of the weather here. You know, I've worked in a lot of mountainous locations, and that's very quick moving as well. But here, it's just it can come out of nowhere and leave just as quickly, which is great. So that can be you know, arduous, but if you're prepared for it and you're ready for it, it can work. You can work it to your advantage.
And what about you, Margarita? What's the most either amazing thing you've seen on set, or the craziest thing that's happened to you on a set in Arizona?
Oh gosh. So what sticks out to me the most, like in a general sense, is that Arizona is so incredible. It has, you know, a mountainous area, the desert, and then in 30 minutes, you're in a forest. We filmed a movie, and we were in New York City for one part of it. And then suddenly we were at a snow cabin up in Mount Lemmon, and it really was snowing. And we had just been down in downtown doing a New York scene. And so it's so incredible how you can go from a lake to a mountain to a city to the forest in a matter of hours in a day, you know, and sometimes in 45 minutes in a company move. So that to me is one of the unique things about Arizona, filming in Arizona. The craziest thing, you guys, I couldn't even tell you. I've seen it all, and they tell the hair and makeup department everything. I've seen it all. We get the gossip, you know, the deets, we have the juice, but I can't even tell you the craziest things that have happened because, you know, I have to also be the counselor, the nurse, the set mom, you know, so I'm also the keeper of all the secrets. So
Margarita,
You and me both. You and me
Right.
both in the sound department.
Right,
All of the things I hear that I am like a vault. It's like
Yep.
I don't eavesdrop. I just
Yep.
if your mic's up, I'm sorry if I'm hearing what you're talking about.
agreed.
Margarita, you've got to embarrass somebody.
Oh, God, you know, I could probably embarrass this crew more than anybody.
You probably could. I know. I could think of a few things I've been upset with you and like, yeah.
I'll leave. The craziest thing is usually for me, the craziest thing is the animals, you know, and people not realizing that you have to, like Bobby said, you have to listen to the briefing. We're telling you about rattlesnakes and we're telling you about javelina and coyote and cute little bunnies that walk up that, you know.
And tarantulas.
Tarantulas.
Always tarantulas.
Always tarantulas. And at nighttime, how, you know, and people just go, oh my gosh, there's a snake. We had one on it was a game show we were working on. And this is one of the other awesome, crazy, unique things about Arizona is we have, you know, so many bases. So we have the Air Force Base, you know, the graveyard, as they call it. And we were filming a game show there. It's Survivor type game show. And inside of the aircraft was it measured at 160 degrees. And we're explaining to the crew that came along, like, you're going to have to take care of this. We're going to have to bring in an AC unit. We're going to have to, you know, and thankfully they were filming with Arizona people that knew these things and had everything on backup. And that same night that we had almost half the New York crew kind of passing out, you know, because of the weather, we had something that I hadn't seen in years, but we had a coral snake. And you don't really know what a coral snake is. You don't see them, or a Gila monster. And we're telling everyone, stay away, don't touch it, admire it, look at it, take all the pictures. This is the unicorn of the desert, you know, the Gila monster, the coral snake, just admire it. So I think that's one of the craziest things for me.
That's pretty crazy.
Elisa, if I could interject, Margaret, sure. in a serious note on your talking about the horror stories that you could tell, in a general sense, I can imagine there have been many instances where you as the professional want to do something with somebody's hair or skin or this or that, and they don't want to do it. They don't think it works for them.
Right.
How do you handle situations like that?
I cry. No, I got to tell you guys, I mean, we all have so many stories. I have so many film friends that work here. We've had so many, I hate to say it, wig stories that haunt me. I wake up in the middle of the night with, oh my God, they insisted on a wig, you know, and I'm like, that's just wrong. But as the professional, my job is to report to the director. We've made storyboards. We have a plan. So I'm usually telling people, just trust me. You know, you have to trust a professional. I haven't been doing this one day. I've been doing this a long time. You know, if you have to go look up my resume, just go check out who I worked on. Like, trust me, you're going to be in good hands. But there's still sometimes those people that just have, you know, I've had actors put on makeup that had like, you know, it's usually newer actors, but, you know, that have like heavy metallic. And I've had the script supervisor, a friend of ours, tell me, Margarita, did you put like metallic on her face? And I was like, absolutely not. You know me, I would never do that. And she goes, I had a feeling, I think she's putting stuff on her face while you're gone. So I had to go have a talk with her, like, hey, that reflects the light. You look really shiny. Odd. You're glowing. You're not supposed to be like that in the scene. So, you know, you just have to go in it with, you know, that you know, trust me, I'm here. I want you to look your best. We have a plan with the director. You know, we've had crew meetings about this, and our job here as a team to make the film look amazing and get and portray what it is that we're trying to say and across. So all of that is just a matter of experience, to be honest with you. Years of experience, years of trial and error, And again, being the set mom, a lot of times I'm Mama Margarita because I'm the one who's gonna go, honey, I swear you look good. I promise you, you look good. So that's kind of how you do it.
That's awesome. I love that answer. That was, yeah, so right on. So, but I want to ask Erin. So Erin, from your perspective, filming in Arizona, what's the craziest, funniest, most amazing thing you may have seen on set?
Well, honestly, I've never seen it before and I haven't seen it since, but when we were doing Dust One in the desert, I actually did get to see a Gila monster one day for the first time. And it's the unicorn of the desert.
It
And
is.
we're all very respectful of it, but like literally all of the crew was like, oh, a Gila monster, because you don't see them. And so that was really, really cool. But I also want to piggyback on something else that Margarita said, which is just, our variety of landscapes is so beautiful. I shot we did my first feature, that was one of the things that we did. We shot in Wilcox and it looked like maybe Oklahoma. We actually have some places in Marana here that like you go out to and you're like, did I literally transport to another state? Because it's like grassland, and you can go up to the mountains and you can have snow and pine trees, and then you can go in the desert and you can have the saguaros. And so I really feel like that's one of the biggest advantages that we have here. And that has been just the most incredible experience as a filmmaker, getting to shoot close to home, but get all these variety of things, because then I don't have to go to another state to get the mountains or go here to get this aspect. And so it's really a luxury for us local filmmakers that we have within an hour of here, or an hour or two either way of Tucson. We really are blessed, and that's, I think, one of Arizona's advantages.
Definitely, I would definitely agree. So Bobby Francis, you've had a lot of time to think over there. So what is the craziest, amazing thing that you've seen on set?
I have a story. When I'm not DPing, I'm a camera assistant for Elisa Cota-Francis here on the panel here. We were fortunate enough to be working on an independent feature out of California. It was called Gunfight at Silver Creek, and we were filming late summer, just before fall. And the crew contacted us, and we were trying to give them advice, and I wanted to speak to the camera department, and I just wanted to let them know, since I have a camera background, that what you need to do, because not only do you need to have safety for your people, you need to have safety for your equipment, because gear here is not used to running at 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So I try to let them know through email, and let them know during our meetings and stuff, but they just never really seemed interested, especially the sound department, because everybody treats them not as good sometimes on set. But on the first day of shooting, they started having major overheat problems on all their equipment. And what was fun was I became the most important person on set at that point.
Yeah. Guess who didn't have problems? The sound mixer and the A2 didn't have any issues because we brought what we needed to bring. Go ahead.
Right. So that's one of the other things about shooting here in Arizona is your equipment. All the stuff, most of the stuff we shoot on or film on or record on, is made in Japan, and their the requirements for testing isn't certainly as stringent as other places in the world, like Australia, who make cameras too. So it's quite, you need to know your equipment before you come here and what it can do, because there's hardly any equipment out there that's designed to run at 115 degrees. So.
But tell them how you saved the day. What did you have on set?
Oh, well, we had ice packs ready. There's certain things you can do either
Flexible
with regular
ice packs are your friend. $2 at Walmart.
Right. You just got to keep your camera dry still. So, using things like oven mitts or whatever to do little saddles. Dry ice works also, but sometimes when you're on a remote shoot, you don't have access to that stuff. But most of the time you have access to ice because people like cold water here. It's really refreshing. So.
And that's the big thing. And we kept telling them, hey, invest in some packs. And I think they brought 2 packs on set, and we have a stack of, I think, 20, and then a bunch of ice packs and igloo coolers that pack around that to keep the ice packs cold, just because we knew their camera's going to go down, and what happens? Camera goes down.
Oh yeah,
because they're
like
shooting in 8K, and it wasn't even outdoors. We were actually shooting inside at Old Tucson in the sheriff's station, but it's 110 degrees outside. So it's probably, like Margarita said, like 150, it feels like inside, because there's no air movement, and the camera kept going down, and they kept asking me, how come I can hear the gears on the red? And I said, because there's an internal fan that won't shut off. And they said, well, I hit record, it's supposed to shut off. I said, yeah, but it's not going to, because the camera is overheating. So they're like, well, I can hear it in the boom mic. And I'm like, well, then you either get the camera further away, or you figure out a different way to do this, because there's really no solutions for a camera that overheats.
Yeah,
So,
we in our department, we've had a lot of challenges like that. A lot of times, and I don't think it's coming from a bad place. It's just people don't realize, you know, the desert looks like the desert all year. You don't have to film July and August for it to look like the desert. So when they say we're insistent on filming during that time, you know, and we're like, okay, well, let us let you know that you should probably have such and such and such prepared, you know. And true story, one shoot we had come in, I want to say it was a European film, and Monsoon Production wound up bringing us a hot pink Yeti so that we could put all of our makeup in it, because the actual production didn't bring it, but our production house supplied it instead, and it was hot pink so that it would match the makeup department, and everybody knew whose cooler it was. So, you know, I mean, we're very good at helping each other out in that sense, and knowing that, you know, there's going to be challenges, maybe if it's the summer, but the rest of the year it's perfect, it's beautiful, the weather is amazing. So, you know, there's 1 or 2 months that it's pretty brutal. So gear, equipment, makeup, all of that stuff, you know, it can be harsh, but you know, we're the professionals, and we say those things because we actually want, you know, a good outcome. So
exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of want to come to too, is the fact that what sets us apart and why are we so good at what we do? One of the reasons is the community that we've created here. Margarita knows we're all 1 or 2 degrees from separation to probably, I would say, at least 500 to 1,000 crew people in Arizona. We all know each other by word of mouth. Our reputations follow us. And when we work with each other, it's very much like, it's like old home week. You'll never walk on a set if you're an Arizona crew member and not know a handful of people, if not knowing all the people. And we're all there to help each other, so that if something happens on our side, it's like, oh, hey, can you grab this for me? Or, hey, did you bring more water because for some reason I forgot this? And so it's that collaborative you know, environment that we create. That's like, it kind of creates this amazing structure. And we saw it on Dust One, we saw it on Cactus Boy, and so many other productions where we're all in this together. And we want to help each other out. We want to give each other advice, but we're also professionals. So, you know, I'm in the sound department. If I say, hey, you know, you might want to keep an eye on this, and it's not that they're, bless you, it's not that they're being rude by not listening to me. It's just like, hey, I'm just letting you know this could be a problem. And then the trust factor ends up skyrocketing after that. And I think once they buy into the fact that we're not just telling you this because we're trying to show off how much we know in Arizona, we've just run into every single problem on set. And I think that's it. So I want to make sure that we have time for questions. And I know there's been a few, but I want to have, like, are there any other last pieces of wisdom that any of you guys would like to add? You guys have added so much.
I have a couple things.
Sure.
It's I don't know if it's wisdom, but boy, is it that when I was on set and I didn't have it. One is, if for whoever's doing your data wrangling, you always should have a battery backup for your system. Case in point, on Dust One, that day where we got rained out, we were all stuck in the house, then we had to find a new location. We actually lost power in the house, and thankfully they were able to recover the footage, but it did lose power on the computer when it was dumping. So always have a battery backup. Also super handy, and this is not necessarily an Arizona thing, but you know what, invest in a headlamp, because that's super, super handy, especially when you're shooting on location in the desert and it's nighttime and you're trying to pack out. It's just I've tried to do it with cell phone, like you need both hands, just get a headlamp. I quickly learned and invested in that. So those were just little things as a filmmaker that I picked up along the way.
Absolutely. Bobby Francis, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I like what Tomas and Erin said about pivoting. As being a DP during pre-production, the whole thing, sting me once or whatever. It's such a great learning tool doing your first productions, because there's so much stuff you learn when you come back and say, hey, I'm going to do it differently this time. And one thing to do is, like, again, you need to pivot, like prepare to shoot a little bit more, because during monsoons, the lighting conditions are constantly changing. From one shot of the same take, it can be bright sunlight to shadows. What you need to do is say, hey, how can we explain this in post-production? So take your time and get a little bit of, clouds in the sky to help tell your story, so be prepared to do that, because during monsoons might dump a whole bunch of rain in between your shots. So you need to be able to explain that. So get a little bit more B-roll, just hit the camera button and get that for your editor. So.
And that's exactly what Tomas did. I mean, yeah, I feel like you're just relaying. Yeah, and tell us about that, Tomas, because you were just running at that time when the Gila monster showed up. Just so you guys know, there was a handful of us at lunch, and Tomas was rolling B-roll with a couple of extra cameras, and we're all just hanging out. And that's why this guy, Gila monster, had come out of his nest. And we didn't realize we had been sitting next to this entire shoot, a nest. He had a little, he has a little underground nest, and he had come out, and all of us are just silent because we're watching him walk across the set. And Tomas is rolling and cameras are rolling. So we kind of turn to the right. We're like, hey, and we try to tell everybody, hey, everybody, don't run at this. We want to let them get some footage. Unfortunately, because everybody was so excited and grabbed their phones and startled him, he ran and he was like hauling butt back to his little nest. And everybody was grabbing their cameras, their phones, and trying to get pictures of him. But Tomas, you were rolling at the time. So tell us about how you got so much of that extra B-roll while you were filming Dust One, because you knew, like, we have to explain the fact there are going to be these differences.
Sure, and not even just differences. Genevieve and I had a large conversation about this. It's that we need to have the desert as a character, right? The Sonoran Desert as a character. We only had 4 main characters in the feature film, but the 5th was the desert. And so I started shooting B-roll, a week or so before we did principal photography. And if we had finished a scene, and we were doing like a rehearsal for another scene or something like that, I would run and do a time lapse with a still camera and set that up and have that running, while we were switching scenes, and even have it running while we were shooting another scene, because it was quiet enough and far enough away. Yeah, I was always trying to take advantage of the very dynamic changes in the weather, especially during what we were shooting in monsoon season. And again, it's like, and always being ready to capture something which is like the unicorn of the desert, the Gila monster, So that in and of itself is a matter of being, like Bobby's saying, like being prepared, and being just, ready and keeping your eyes open to what is available out there.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you wanted to add to the conversation before we get to the questions?
Bobby has a question.
Well, do you
I'm good.
I was going to let Tomas finish and then.
Oh, sorry.
I'm good. Yeah, we can go to questions.
Oh, go ahead, Bobby Francis. Did you want to say
Oh,
something?
I just recalled a certain piece of advice somebody gave me. Like, often when you're filming documentary, you'll have like an audio incursion of something that you don't like in the scene, an airplane flying over or a train going by, honking its horn or whatever. But someone gave me some excellent advice once. Get B-roll of that train honking or that airplane flying over. And as long as your audience see it in the film, they're going to accept it.
Yes.
So
That's
I thought that was some cool advice.
I know, and that's a good editing advice too. Give your editor as much stuff as you can. So Margarita, any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, when filming in Arizona, drink a lot of water. We're gonna tell you a million times, hey, drink some water. Have sunscreen. Every department should carry their own, because I always take it from the hair and makeup, and I need it for my actors, because if their color changes, they don't look the same in the next scene. So everybody should always have sunscreen. Like, all year long. It's a really bright sun here. So sunscreen, drink a lot of water. I always suggest battery operated fans, frog togs, cooling towels, a hat, and some type of coverage. Like Erin said, an umbrella. We personally in hair and makeup give our umbrellas to our actors. So bring your own umbrella. That's huge. I gave so many umbrellas away on just one that I actually was huddled up with Erin, you know, and we were all, because it was so bright and sunny, we were all, my whole department was under Erin's, and Elisa and Erin were sitting kind of close, had enough coverage, and you know, all the whole crew had my umbrellas, the actors had my umbrellas, but thankfully, since Erin was super prepared, we were able to like huddle up under her in the middle of the desert. So those are my big tidbits for anyone coming to Arizona to film, you know, just be a little bit prepared.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think we're so used to working with a variety of people, because we'll go from working on a feature film to a documentary to working with Nat Geo or Discovery Channel. And so we never make the assumption as Arizona crew that they're going to cover us.
Right.
You know, they'll buy water, but your body needs a certain amount of water per hour. So I bring my own water. I bring my own sunscreen. I bring my own snacks. I bring everything, because worst case scenario, you're offering that to somebody else. You're helping out each other. So Margarita is totally right, because and we bring extras because we're all in this together, and you don't want to see somebody, because the number one thing I see on set, people going down with heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Yeah. And we know the steps in Arizona, like, oh, you're getting close, let's get you under there. And so, you know, when I'm on set and I tell you, you need to go sit down, you know, or if I tell a production, you might want to hire an extra PA or two, because you may have one that goes down with exhaustion, heat exhaustion, and they'll just need to sit it out for a while. But 99% of the incident reports that I ever see on set because of that are usually heat related. Yeah, you know, it's making sure you're not pushing yourself too much. So, well, we have some great questions here that I wanted to get to, and one of them was Shelby had talked about. She said, you know, hey folks, all the things that you're discussing should be written as a tips of the trade for the Film Commission website. Great information, but essential information for out of the state productions. Actually, Shelby, Bobby Francis and I and Erin Benzenhoefer of IFA are already on that. We're actually going to be creating a whole set of fun PSAs that we're going to film that are going to be about this. Like, so you want to come to Arizona and film, and it's going to be hilarious. We're writing them out. Hopefully they'll be hilarious. And we're reaching out to our network of folks to say, hey, what are the other things you want us to include? But there'll be a series of them that'll be nice and short and sweet, and a lot of it about water, coverage, how many pop-up tents you need, the wind. We didn't even talk about the wind that will, every day in production, no matter what, you'll go out there dead air. At some point in your day, there will be a dust up of wind. It always happens. And you'll see the pop-up tent go, woo, or the chairs go bye-bye. So we're always telling people, get a lot of sandbags, shot bags. You need to have a lot of those on set to hold down the gear. So we're actually putting those together, but I love that suggestion. And John, let me know, did you want to actually just ask us any of these questions, John? I know you had a lot of feedback.
Whatever you want to do, Elisa.
Oh, no, feel free. If you want to ask them to us, do you feel like we covered most of them, or do you feel like we want to go through? I don't mind at all, because one of these things I think is really great, which is for everyone. Hollywood and maybe New York crews have the reputation of being the best and the most advanced. What do they know or do that crews in other areas aren't aware of? Do they deserve this reputation of being the best of the best? And I think that's a good question, because we come back to that a lot. I think we get a lot of out of town people who don't realize how good we are at what we do here. So Margarita, you want to chime in on this?
Oh, absolutely. I have to go right to the part about, do they deserve the reputation of being the best? And I won't say no. What I will say is, one of the coolest things about Arizona is we're the Hollywood of the desert. John Wayne movies were invented here, people. Like, the reason why we're so good is years and years and years of those Westerns. And I mean, we have so much experience, so much talent, generations and generations of people who have been working on these old Westerns that have been in the Hollywood movie scene and the Arizona desert Hollywood scene. So when we hear like, oh, well, you know, you have to go to Hollywood to film that, you really don't, not always, you know, and a lot of those people come from here. So a lot of the old Teamsters, a lot of the old stunt guys, they're from here. So when I say the reputation and do they deserve it, I think there's enough room for everyone to just have a really great reputation. And I think that's one of the reasons why Arizona is known for being such a good, hard cowboy town and gets movies done, because we do have the experience, and it's generations of experience. So I just had to chime in on that one.
No, I loved it. That was good.
I filmed everywhere, and I got to tell you, there's nothing like filming in Arizona. There's nothing. So, I mean, I'll take New York, I'll take LA. I've done it all, but there's nothing like Arizona for me.
Oh yeah, I love that. The Hollywood of the desert. That's excellent.
We're the best, Margarita. We're going to turn this all into a great PSA while you come to film in Arizona. Does anyone else want to chime in on this?
I just want to say too, that one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, and Margarita kind of alluded to it, is the people that work here, a lot of them also work on crews in LA. You have to remember that we're so close to LA that a lot of our crews actually work there too, as well as the big, a lot of them work in the New Mexico film scene, which is huge. And I imagine their crews are very good there as well. I mean, because that state is just a film boom. And so again, I'm not going to say they didn't earn their reputation of being good in New York and LA. I mean, I think some of it's overinflated only because those towns in general are so much more, it's like, ooh, the Hollywood glitz and glam, New York fashion scene, so they have that also going for them in terms of how the reputations are. But, as Margarita said, like the people came from here. And I think also the one thing to remember is that, we did have a decline, sadly, in our production. After, I think it was 97 when we had the big fire at Old Tucson Studios, and we did see a decline. And so we did have some people move to like Los Angeles just to keep working. But I want to tell you, they're moving back. They're coming back, because you know what? They would rather work here. And I've worked with a lot of LA crews too. And they're great people. And I've met some wonderful lifelong friends. But I don't know what it is, but it is sort of the Arizona Tucson attitude. I feel more like I'm working with family on the crews here than when I work with the crews in LA. And everybody is just as talented and skilled, in my opinion, in both areas. But like, hands down, I'll take an Arizona crew any day.
Exactly right, because we always tend to get it done. Bobby or Tomas, you want to add to this at all? You guys are so quiet.
Well, I mean, I'm tainted because I'm 30 years of working in LA. So, but I will tell you this: the LA and the New York crews, they will be the first to tell you that they're the best. So,
oh, they will.
But again, I mean, coming from LA, but then working, my first feature here in Arizona, I was pleasantly thrilled and surprised to see the level of experience that I met with the crew people down here. I was like, it's like, you people are amazing. So, and I was like, how did you do that? Let me show me what you're doing there. Okay, that was cool. So yeah, super surprised. I wasn't expecting non-experienced, but the level of experience of the crew that I met down here was astounding. So it was terrific, really, really fantastic.
No, and I think that's exactly what ends up happening, and that pivots into, I think, John's next question: what are our views about union versus non-union? And I will say we're a mixed group of union and non-union. So we're not anti-union or pro-union or anything. We're just, half of the folks that we work with in Arizona are part of the union and half are not. I mean, really, I think it all depends on what gets you more work and what works for you. But unions are something that are very close to what we do. So yeah, I don't.
But
think,
Elisa, is there some bias one way or another?
I don't feel that there is. And I feel like I have not experienced it. What about you guys? I mean, I am a non-union sound mixer. If there was a production that came to town that preferred to have unions, I have enough union friends in 695, which is the largest sound mixer group in the world, who are my close friends, and I could easily figure out a way to, you know, I've already walked me through, this is how you would join Elisa, and this is how it would work. So those are the things I think we so know both sides of it that, you know, I mean, do you guys want to add to this? Anybody?
Go ahead, Erin, if you're going to say something.
I was going to say, I am reading the question too. And I actually, I don't know if I don't think I've actually had the pleasure of working on a union shoot. But the hours, do you find working on a union shoot versus non-union shoot, do they try to push non-union shoots longer, or is it pretty much the same? It's like you do the hours you need to get the job done. I think.
And I've been on union shoots where they've gone way over. It really does not matter. They just end up in penalty. You end up with second dinner.
I feel like for me, if they come in union, they've usually got the budget. So they'll take the penalties, they'll take the overtime. And I almost want to say that sometimes on the indies that are the non-union, you're going to have less of some of that pushback because they don't have the budget to pay you the overtime. So they'll figure it out. Like, I feel like sometimes they wiggle their schedule, or they wiggle their priorities a little bit more than a unionized shoot would just because of budgetarily. So they're like, okay, we can't afford to go over because we can't afford all the overtime for the crew. Okay, so how can we change the day so that we can shoot something so that we still have our end product? And I think there's a little bit more of that rationalization that happens on the indie non-union film side.
Gotcha. And then I know that the next one, I loved this question. How do you handle situations where someone you are supervising as part of your crew doesn't have the skills or knowledge you do, though, or that you thought that they had? And I'm watching, and I'm actually thinking of this on both perspectives, where I've had supervisors who didn't think I had the knowledge, and then vice versa, where I am in charge of people that I was told, hey, this is your boom op, and it's like, I'm an A1, you know, I'm a sound mixer, you hire my A2, but sometimes they are provided, and you're just like, you realize, wow, they're just some PA that somebody decided to hire as a boom operator, doesn't know what they're doing. So yeah, whoever would like to start chiming in on this one, this is a delicate dance. Go ahead, Margarita. Yeah.
I can say something. It's kind of funny because I worked on a film with some great people, dear friends of mine. And it was kind of one of those passion projects. Hey, buddy, you want to help me with this kind of thing? And you go on. And I'm like, well, you know, I will. Can you bring me in an assistant? You know, it's just kind of heavy, and we're doing the friend favor kind of thing. You know, it was one of those kind of things. And they brought me someone in. And there was miscommunication. They brought somebody in that I thought they said was my assistant, has set experience, great. So I get there and this person is literally sitting there doing nothing. Best part of this story is this person wound up being one of my best friends. So I'm gonna talk a little, but it also wound up being a happy thing. But I couldn't understand why this hair and makeup person wasn't, you know, running on set, and you know, I'm getting everyone ready, and they're like, yeah, guys sitting on the couch just watching, you know. So anyway, long story short, I was kind of cursing there for a little bit, and then I like pulled this person aside and was like, hey, like, what's going on? Like how comfortable, how familiar? Well, yes, this person had experience, but they had experience in the entertainment field on stage, not on set, which is completely different. And so they were working at, you know, Busch Gardens and doing like shows like that and things like that. So when they came to set, they'd go, oh yeah, someone told me, oh, hey, you and Margarita would mesh really well. I'm looking for an assistant. You can her because you know makeup. And there was like this whole miscommunication of how experienced this person was. And as their supervisor, I was like, okay, well, I'm glad that I have communication skills where I asked the person instead of just said, go home. And this person wound up being my right hand for 10 years. So he was part of my business and part of my company. And had I not had the moment to communicate with him and then to say, oh, like you've never been on set ever? And they're giving you to me? Okay, so instead of doing what we're doing, I have to train you and I have to teach you how to be good and quick and efficient and know that you have to say spraying, you know, and so people cover a camera. So for me, I think the most important part and how you handle it is with communication, and being, you know, a good communicator helps all of those problems. So, you know, sometimes people are going to get ruffled feathers or feel, you know, feelings hurt or whatever. But if you don't communicate those things, like had my friend who offered this person to me said, well, I don't know how much experience they had, instead of just volunteering that they were going to be my set assistant, that would have been great. And, you know, I'll take part of the blame of not asking a few more questions before we arrived the next day. So that's how, you know, that's how I think that you handle that. So that, I think that's a great question.
Oh, I think it is too. And I want to pivot to Bobby Francis because we were on the set of Duster, and we ended up becoming key PAs in almost like second seconds. And, you know, we were thrown on set with about 35 PAs who were below us. How did you handle that situation, Bobby, when you stepped in and you had to supervise a bunch of people that you weren't sure what their experience level was? Some of them had very no experience and some had a lot.
Well, it all started with, like Margarita said, was communication. You have to basically, when you're dealing with a fresh crowd, is like you got to go by the least common denominator, and that's how you have to talk to this group, because you don't have that much time. So you have to get out the information that they need. That you can't assume that everybody knows what you know or what the next person knows. So you have to start at the bottom and communicate up. You try to identify your leaders on those teams, the ones that have more experience, and put them, you know, side by side, make them your key PAs, you know, that have experience, that, you know, are the best communicators. When you're on a production, I mean, your best communicator on set should be your AD. You know, that is their job, is to facilitate the flow of communication. Like they should, you know, have those personal skills, because the last thing you want to do is upset people on your set because you're correcting someone in public. You know, you never do that unless if there's a safety issue involved. If you have time, you either tell your AD to say, hey, can you have this person correct this action? You know, I'm not really happy with it. So you keep the whole set light as possible. You know, there's nothing worse than a super heavy film where people feel upset, or there's grudges starting to go around, or become resentful. That's your job as a leader, is keep that top of your mind. That's the best advice I can give, I think.
Elisa, maybe you want to head us into the sunset hour.
We are, I know, and those were such great questions. So I wanted to know if there were any. Yeah, I mean, this was amazing. I so appreciate it. Are there any last pearls of wisdom? I would love it if you guys just had one little sentence to say, you know, here's what it is. And I think a big part of this is come to Arizona to film, listen to what we have to say, because we're here to help you. So I would love to start with Erin. What is your last little pearl of wisdom that you would bestow upon the audience?
Remember to have fun. We are in, like, honestly, we are in such a unique profession. We have the opportunity to not only make content that will enliven somebody's life, it doesn't matter what it is, but, you know, we have the opportunity to also enrich the lives of the people we're working with. And I always try to remember that, you know, treat everybody with dignity, even if they don't have your experience. You know what, maybe be kind to them and give them a little instruction. Remember that we're all human. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's okay, because that is part of learning. But just have fun. Try to not take everything so seriously. And I always judge everything by, like, okay, in the eternal scheme of life, how important is this moment right here to get right? Because I overworked myself one time for somebody on a set. I overworked myself, and it ended up leading to some health problems. And so I always keep that in mind. Like, I know in this industry, people are going to ask you for the world. They're going to ask you for your soul, and they're going to say, I needed it done yesterday. You know what? Understand your limits, self-care, have fun. We have an amazing job. Whatever job you have in this industry, it is amazing. We make magic happen. Period.
Absolutely. Oh, I
Always
love that.
remember
I love it. I love it. Tomas, what would be your last pearl of wisdom?
Going back just a step about being with folks who either have or have less experience or more experience than you. I was actually, when I was on Duster, I was 6 weeks on Duster, first unit SLT, and there were a lot of toys that I didn't know about. So, and even though I've got this like a really long, lugubrious background in lighting, especially automotive stuff, there were some toys there. They're like, yeah, we need all these, all these things on rat packs and stuff. I was like, hang on a second. And I just tapped one of my other SLTs and like, hey, you know what? What's a rat pack? And they're like, yeah, okay, it's this. I was like, got it, but I had to come with it with humility, because I was like, I don't know everything, and there's certain toys I have no idea what you're talking about. So again, and a lot of these folks are probably younger than me, and they've got a lot more experience on film sets, but I had to be, just sucking in. It's like, you know what? I don't know everything. I need to know what this is. Can you help me what it is? So just on the other end of like, other than saying like, we're also like treating people that don't have as much experience as you, treating them with dignity. You also have to be humble when you don't know something on set.
Yeah, I think it's the I don't know is the most powerful thing you can say, and I think it takes a lot of humility to say that, and a lot of really, experience to realize I need to learn how to do this. So Margarita, what are your last pearls of wisdom?
Honestly, if you're going to film in Arizona, I'm going to say it again, water and sunscreen, cover up, those things. But yeah, like Erin said, Tomas, enjoy what you're doing. How lucky and fortunate and blessed are we to be doing what we do? I've pulled friends that are in like accounting into like the film world, just because you get so many people that go, wow, that's so cool, and it's like, yeah, no, it is. It's a great thing to do. So and then I also have people that are like, wow, that sucks, I would never, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, it's hot, it's a lot, it's not for everybody. So we're just super blessed to do what we do. And like Erin said, whatever position you're in, or just have a really good time and enjoy what you're doing. Life is too short to be doing a job that you don't want to do. Why not do what you love? So filmmaking is it.
And Bobby Francis, your last pearl of wisdom.
I would say drink more Ovaltine. Oh, geez.
Come on, I put you last because I wanted you to think about this.
Oh, I know.
There's a big.
I really
drum
love
roll.
what Erin said. Practice kindness to your fellow filmmakers, the people on set, to have understanding, and patience is the key to filmmaking. Take a deep breath. Watch where you step. This is the desert, for God's sake. So
I love it. That was fantastic. But I love that overall consensus. Have fun. Because if you're not having fun out there, why be out there? So I want to thank each of our panelists for hopping on, and thank you so much, John, and thank you to the Arizona International Film Festival, and TJ, who you don't know is behind the scenes, guys. Thank you. Everybody owes TJ a big thank you, TJ, for getting all of the logistics done and recording this for us. This will be available on YouTube, and there will be links provided, and IFA will make sure you guys get all of those. Come and film in Arizona. And if you have any other questions, reach out either to the Arizona International Film Festival or to IFA. I see all the emails. I am there to help you. So independentfilm.org or independentfilmarizona.org. Arizona, wait, it's not Arizona, it's festival. Is that correct, John?
Film Festival Arizona.
Filmfestivalarizona.org. Please go to those websites. Yeah, find out more about us. And we thank you both. We thank you all so much for being here. You guys were amazing. Great questions. Thank each one of the panelists. Thank you guys so much. Have a great, wonderful rest of your day. Go ahead, John.
And Elisa, I just want to leave it with you. Thank you so much. Excellent panelists, right on it. Thank you out there in Zoom land. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
And I'm going to wave. I'm a Zoom waver. Bye, guys.